The large classroom on station buzzed with strange sounds. Clicks, whistles, and electronic hums filled the air as students from across the galaxy settled into their seats. This was the advanced xenobiology class at the Galactic Pedagogical Institute, the most respected school in known space. Professor glided into the room, her long tentacles moving like silk in the artificial gravity. She was one of the oldest and races in the galaxy. Her pale blue skin seemed to glow softly in the classroom lights. Students quickly quieted down when they saw her. "Welcome back, everyone," Professor said, her voice musical and calm. "Today we have something very special. We are welcoming our first student from a recently discovered world." The students looked around with interest. Getting into this school was incredibly difficult. Only the beings from the most advanced worlds could attend. Near the front of the room sat Quartz 7, a made of living crystal. Light passed through her transparent body, creating rainbow patterns on the walls. She was nearly 3 meters tall even while sitting down. Her kind could withstand temperatures that would melt most metals. Behind her floated a whose insect-like body was covered in a shell harder than diamond. 4 arms ended in razor-sharp claws, and compound eyes watched everything at once. There were master engineers who built structures that lasted for thousands of years. In the corner, a column of swirling gas marked where Al studied. They had no solid form, existing as pure energy held together by electromagnetic fields. They could survive in the vacuum of space and travel at incredible speeds. These were the galaxy's elite. Each race had conquered their home worlds and reached for the stars through superior evolution or advanced technology. Professor gestured toward the door. "Please welcome from the world called Earth." A figure walked into the classroom, and immediate silence fell. The new student was small compared to everyone else. He stood only about 1.8 meters tall on 2 legs. His skin was a pale pinkish color, covered in some kind of artificial material. No natural armor was visible anywhere on his body. Had dark hair on top of his head and small eyes that seemed to take in everything. He carried a simple bag and what looked like a primitive data device. When he smiled at the class, they could see small white teeth, clearly not designed for hunting or fighting. "Thank you, Professor," said, his voice quiet but steady. He found an empty seat and sat down carefully. The alien students exchanged glances. This was their new classmate, this soft, weak-looking creature. Quartz 7's crystal body flickered with amusement. She leaned toward and spoke in a frequency only they could hear. "Look how fragile it is. No exoskeleton, no natural weapons. How did such a weak species even survive long enough to develop space travel?" A clicked her mandibles together softly, the version of laughter. "The humans must have gotten lucky. Maybe their world has no real predators, or perhaps they hide underground like prey animals." Even Al pulsed with colors that showed confusion. In culture, strength was everything. How could a being so physically weak earn a place here? Professor continued with the introduction. "Comes from a world in the outer spiral arm. Earth was recently contacted by our exploration teams. The humans showed remarkable adaptability in first contact situations." She pulled up a holographic display showing Earth from space. It was a blue and green world, covered mostly in water. It looked peaceful and calm. "The human appears to be what we classify as a garden world," the professor explained. "Mild temperatures, plenty of water and stable conditions, very similar to the actually." The students nodded. Garden worlds were known for producing gentle, peaceful species. That explained why it looked so soft and helpless. "Now then," Professor said, "let's begin today's lesson on predator-prey relationships. I'd like each of you to briefly describe the apex predator from your. This will help us understand how different environments shape hunting strategies." Quartz 7 volunteered to go first. She stood up, her crystal form catching the light beautifully. "On our apex predator is the mountain render. It stands 50 meters tall and is made of living stone. When it moves, the ground shakes for kilometers. It can crush buildings with its footsteps and shoots beams of superheated crystal from its eyes. Nothing on our world can challenge it. The class murmured with appreciation. Impressive indeed. A went next. The hive destroyers rule our skis. They are collective organisms made of millions of smaller creatures working as one mind. A single destroyer can stretch across an entire city. They have acid that melts through our strongest metals and can coordinate attacks with perfect precision. They nearly drove my people extinct before we developed quantum shields. Al pulsed with energy as they spoke. On our gas giant home, we face the void storms. These are not really creatures but living weather patterns. They consume energy directly from whatever they touch. A small void storm can drain an entire moon of all its power. They grow larger by feeding until some become bigger than planets. One by one, each student described terrifying apex predators from there. Creatures that could destroy cities, melt mountains, or consume entire ecosystems. The humans listened quietly, taking notes on his primitive device. Finally, Professor turned to, "And what about Earth's apex predator? I'm sure even a peaceful garden world must have some dangerous creatures." Looked up from his notes. "Well, the apex predator on Earth is us humans." The classroom fell silent. Then Quartz 7 began to flicker with what could only be laughter. "Humans, but you have no natural weapons, no armor, no size advantage. How could you possibly be apex predators?" Stayed calm. "You're right that we don't look very dangerous, but we develop tools and cooperation. We can change our environment instead of just adapting to it." A click dismissively. "Tools can only do so much against real predators. What happens when your technology fails?" "Then we adapt," said simply. "But if you want to hear about a dangerous creature from Earth, I could tell you about sharks next week. They're ocean predators." The aliens exchanged amused glances. Ocean predators from a garden world. How threatening could they be? Professor nodded kindly. "That sounds wonderful. I'm sure your sharks are very interesting to your people." As class ended, the alien students filed out, whispering among themselves about their strange new classmate. None of them realized that everything they thought they knew about humans was about to change forever. Packed his bag slowly, a small smile on his face. Next week was going to be very educational. The second week of advanced xenobiology class began with more presentations about apex predators. Professor had arranged for detailed studies of hunting behaviors from different worlds. Sat in his usual seat, watching as his classmates shared incredible stories. Each presentation made the aliens seem more powerful, and they're more dangerous. Okay, a massive reptilian student from the volcanic world, described the magma stalkers. These creatures lived inside active volcanoes and hunted by swimming through molten rock. They were 30 meters long with scales that could withstand temperatures hot enough to melt starship hulls. The magma stalkers can sense heat from any living creature within 100 kilometers, OK explained, his deep voice rumbling through the classroom. They attack by erupting from underground, bringing tons of lava with them. My people had to develop personal force fields just to survive in our own cities. The class listened with respect. Everyone understood that surviving on such a world required incredible strength and technology. Next came Ra, an aquatic being whose blue skin shimmered like water. She wore a special suit filled with liquid to keep her comfortable in the dry classroom air. Her people, the Oceanic, came from a world covered entirely in deep water. "Our apex predator is the abyssal leviathan," Ra said, her voice bubbling through her breathing apparatus. "They grow to be 300 meters long and live in the deepest parts of our oceans. Their sonar calls can be heard across entire continents underwater. They hunt by creating whirlpools large enough to pull down our largest cities." She showed holographic images of massive creatures, with tentacles longer than most buildings. Their eyes glowed with bioluminescence in the dark depths. The leviathans are so intelligent that they use tools, Ra continued. They farm smaller creatures and build structures on the ocean floor. Some of our philosophers believe they may be as smart as we are, but they see us as food rather than equals. The alien students nodded with understanding. These were the kinds of challenges that built strong civilizations. Throughout all these presentations, took careful notes. He asked thoughtful questions about hunting patterns and survival strategies. The other students began to respect his curiosity, even if they still thought he came from a boring, safe world. During a break, Quartz 7 approached. Her crystal form sparkled as she moved, creating beautiful light patterns. "I've been thinking about your people," she said, her voice like wind chimes. "How did humans develop space travel without facing serious predators? Most species need to overcome great challenges before they can reach the stars." Looked up from his notes. "What makes you think we didn't face challenges?" "Well," Quartz 7 gestured with one crystalline arm, "you're so small and soft. No natural armor or weapons. Your professor said Earth is a garden world. Those are usually very peaceful places." Other students gathered around to listen. Clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "Perhaps humans are very good at hiding. Some species survive by avoiding conflicts instead of fighting." Al pulsed with agreement. "Or maybe you developed intelligence much faster than physical strength. That can work on worlds without serious predators." Smiled quietly. "I suppose we'll find out next week when I talk about sharks." "Right, your ocean predators," Ra said with gentle amusement. "I'm curious to hear about them. Ocean creatures on garden worlds are usually quite gentle, probably nothing like our leviathans, but I'm sure they're impressive to your people." "How big are these sharks?" asked OK. 2 meters 3. "The biggest ones are about 6 meters long," replied. The aliens exchanged glances. 6 meters was large for a garden world predator, but tiny compared to what they faced. OK's magma stalkers were 5 times that size. 6 meters, repeated. "That's actually quite respectable for your world type. Do they have any special abilities?" "Oh yes," said. "Sharks are very special. I think you'll find them interesting." Professor called the class back to order. "Now, let's discuss how these different apex predators shape the evolution of your species. Okay, please tell us how the magma stalkers influenced your people's development." The reptilian student stood up proudly. "The constant threat forced us to become incredibly strong and heat-resistant. We developed natural armor plating and internal cooling systems. We also learned to work together in ways that maximize survival. Every citizen can withstand temperatures that would kill most other species instantly." Ra added, "The leviathans taught my people to be fast and flexible underwater. We can change our body density to dive deeper or surface quickly. We learned to communicate across vast distances and to work as coordinated groups. Without the leviathans pushing us, we never would have developed our advanced sonar technologies." Each student shared similar stories. The deadly predators on their worlds had forced rapid evolution and technological development. The constant pressure to survive had made their species stronger, smarter, and more advanced. Professor nodded approvingly. "Excellent examples. This is why worlds with dangerous apex predators often produce the most successful space-faring civilizations. The pressure to survive drives innovation and evolution." She turned to, "I'm very curious about how your sharks influenced human development. Even on garden worlds, predators play important roles in shaping intelligence and social behavior." "I think you'll be surprised," said simply. After class, the alien students walked together toward the cafeteria. They were discussing his mysterious sharks. 6 meters isn't that impressive," Quartz 7 said, "but maybe they're very fast or have poisonous bites." "Garden world predators are usually ambush hunters," a suggested. Perhaps these sharks are very good at hiding and striking quickly. Ra was more thoughtful. I admit, I'm curious about any aquatic predator. Even on gentle worlds, ocean creatures can be surprisingly effective hunters. Maybe sharks are more dangerous than they first appear. OK rumbled with laughter. How dangerous could they be? Look at the human. He's completely unarmored and obviously peaceful. His world clearly never put much pressure on his species. I bet these sharks are just large fish that eat smaller fish. Still, Al pulsed thoughtfully, seems very confident about his presentation. Perhaps there's something special about these sharks that we don't understand yet. We'll find out next week, Quart 7 said. I'm sure it will be educational, even if it's not as impressive as our apex predators. The aliens continued their discussion, completely unaware that they were about to learn something that would change their understanding of humans forever. Meanwhile, walked quietly behind them, reviewing his notes about great white sharks. He had spent the week preparing his presentation very carefully. Tomorrow, his new classmates would finally begin to understand what it really meant to come from Earth. He thought about the footage he had selected and the facts he would share. The aliens were in for quite a surprise, wondered how they would react when they learned the truth about life on his supposedly peaceful garden world. Next week's class was going to be very interesting indeed. The third week arrived, and the classroom was buzzing with quiet anticipation. Word had spread that the human student would finally present his ocean predator. Most students expected a mildly interesting description of some large fish from a peaceful world. Professor called the class to order. Today, we'll share information about apex predators from Earth's oceans. Please proceed. Stood up and walked to the front of the classroom. He activated the holographic display system and cleared his throat. Thank you, Professor. Today I want to tell you about which we call the great white shark. The display showed a sleek, torpedo-shaped creature swimming through blue water. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary fish. The alien students settled back in their seats, ready to be polite but not particularly impressed. Great white sharks are marine predators that live in our oceans, began calmly. They average about 6 meters in length and weigh approximately 2,000 kilograms. OK yawned. These numbers were not impressive compared to the massive creatures from his world. Let me start with their sensory abilities, continued. Great white sharks can detect a single drop of blood in 100 liters of water from a distance of 5 kilometers. Ra straightened up in her liquid-filled suit. That was actually quite impressive sensory capability. They also have electroreception, went on. This allows them to sense the electrical fields generated by all living creatures. A shark can detect electrical signals as weak as 0.005 microvolts. To put that in perspective, they can sense your heartbeat from across a football field. The classroom grew quieter. Quart 7's crystalline form stopped its casual flickering. Click to the next image, showing the shark's open mouth. Their jaws contain up to 300 serrated teeth arranged in multiple rows. When teeth break or fall out, new ones move forward to replace them. A single shark can go through 30,000 teeth in its lifetime. A's compound eyes focused more intently on the display. Those teeth looked very sharp. The bite force of a great white shark exceeds 1.8 tons per square inch, said matter-of-factly. That's enough pressure to bite through steel cables. Now he had everyone's attention. Even Al's energy form had stopped its lazy swirling. Great whites are also incredibly fast, continued. They can burst from the depths at speeds of up to 56 kilometers per hour. When attacking from below, they can launch their entire 2,000-kilogram body completely out of the water. He showed footage of a massive shark exploding from the ocean's surface, water streaming from its body as it hung in the air for a moment before crashing back down. The alien students stared in shock. This was not the gentle garden world predator they had expected. But perhaps most impressive is their evolutionary success, said. Sharks have existed virtually unchanged for 400 million years. They survived every mass extinction event that our planet has experienced. They lived alongside the dinosaurs and watched them disappear. They survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, and volcanic periods that wiped out countless other species. Professor's tentacles had stopped their graceful movement entirely. She said carefully, "These creatures sound quite formidable. How do humans coexist with such predators?" Smiled slightly. "Well, that's the interesting part. Sharks kill an average of 5 humans per year worldwide." 5, Quart 7's voice cracked with confusion. "Out of how many total humans?" "About 8 billion of us," replied. The mathematical implications hit the classroom like a physical blow. These perfect predators, with their incredible speed, devastating bite force, and supernatural senses, killed only 5 humans per year out of 8 billion. "But how?" A clicked frantically. "How do you survive against such creatures?" "We don't just survive," said quietly. "We swim with them." He clicked to the next image. Humans in metal cages, surrounded by massive sharks. The predators circled the cages while the humans inside watched calmly, some even reaching out to touch the creatures. "This is cage diving," explained. "Humans pay money to get in the water with great white sharks. It's considered entertainment." The next image showed a human on a board, floating on the ocean surface. Below, clearly visible, was the shadow of a large shark. "This is surfing," continued. "Humans ride waves for fun in areas where sharks hunt. We call people who do this surfers, and there are millions of them." Okay's voice was barely a whisper. "They do this for fun." "Oh yes," said, "but it gets more interesting. Let me show you marine biology research." The screen displayed footage of humans swimming freely in open water with sharks. No cages, no protection. The sharks swam peacefully alongside the humans, sometimes brushing against them. "These are marine biologists studying shark behavior," explained. "They swim with sharks regularly to understand them better. Some researchers have been doing this for decades." Ra's breathing apparatus was working overtime. "The sharks don't attack." "Very rarely," said. "Most shark attacks on humans are cases of mistaken identity. Sharks usually realize we're not their preferred prey and leave us alone." Professor found her voice. "What do sharks consider their preferred prey?" "Seals mostly, large fish. Other marine animals," replied. "The thing is, sharks are actually afraid of dolphins, and dolphins are afraid of humans." The silence in the classroom was complete. Every alien student was trying to process what they had just heard. "You're saying," Quart 7 said slowly, "that these apex predators avoid humans?" "Generally, yes," confirmed. "In fact, humans are much more dangerous to sharks than sharks are to humans. We kill about 100 million sharks every year." 100 million. Al's energy form pulsed with shock. "Sometimes for food, sometimes by accident when we're fishing for other things," said. "Sharks are actually in danger of extinction because of human activities." The implications were staggering. These aliens had spent weeks describing how their apex predators had shaped their evolution, forced them to become stronger and smarter. But humans seemed to have turned the relationship around completely. A's mandibles clicked nervously. If sharks are this powerful and humans are even more dangerous to them, what else lives on your world? Looked around the silent classroom. Every eye, optical sensor, and energy field was focused on him. "Well," he said thoughtfully, "sharks aren't even in the top 10 most dangerous animals on Earth." Professor's tentacles began to tremble slightly. "What? What is the most dangerous animal on your world?" "That depends on how you count," replied. "Mosquitoes kill the most humans each year, about 725,000. But if you mean what we're most afraid of in the water, That would probably be box jellyfish or blue-ringed. He paused, looking at their terrified expressions. Would you like me to tell you about those next week? The week following shark presentation was unlike anything the Galactic Pedagogical Institute had ever experienced. Word spread quickly through the station about the human students' shocking revelations. Students from other classes began attending Professor's xenobiology course, packing the classroom beyond capacity. When walked in for the fourth week, he found not just his usual classmates but dozens of other alien students. Even some professors had come to observe. The tension in the room was electric. Professor struggled to maintain order. Please, everyone find seats. We have a lot of interest in today's presentation. Looked around at all the expectant faces, crystal forms and energy beings. I see word got around. Professor said, her tentacles twisting with anxiety. Before you begin, I must ask, last week you mentioned that sharks aren't even in the top 10 most dangerous creatures on Earth. Could you give us some context about your world's actual danger level? Nodded and activated the display. Instead of a single creature, the screen showed a world map marked with thousands of red dots. Each red dot represents a species that can kill humans, explained calmly. There are approximately 1,200 species on Earth that pose a direct threat to human life. A collective gasp rippled through the overcrowded classroom. Quartz 7's crystal form flickered rapidly with distress. But don't worry, continued with a slight smile. Most humans never encounter more than a few dozen of these in their daily lives. Daily lives, clicked in alarm. You encounter deadly predators daily. Well, it depends where you live, said. Let me show you some examples. The screen switched to footage of a human walking calmly past massive reptiles sunbathing on a riverbank. The creatures were easily 6 meters long with jaws that could snap a person in half. These are crocodiles, explained. They can grow up to 7 meters long and have the strongest bite force of any living animal, about 3,700 pounds per square inch. They're ambush predators that can launch themselves out of water faster than most humans can run. He clicked to the next image, a human in a boat, photographing one of these monsters from just a few meters away. This is wildlife photography. It's a popular hobby. Ra's breathing apparatus was working frantically. How many humans do these crocodiles kill? About 20 per year in Australia, where this footage was taken, replied. Australia has about 25 million people. Most Australians consider crocodiles a minor inconvenience. A new voice spoke up from the back. It was Professor, the head of stellar biology. What do you mean by minor inconvenience? Showed footage of humans swimming in the same rivers where crocodiles lived, with warning signs posted nearby. They put up signs to warn people. Most humans just swim somewhere else. Some ignore the signs. They ignore warnings about apex predators. Professor's voice cracked with disbelief. Humans have a saying, said. They call it awards when someone dies doing something obviously dangerous. It's considered educational for the rest of us. He moved on to the next creature. Now, let me tell you about the blue-ringed octopus I mentioned. The screen showed a small, beautiful creature with bright blue rings pulsing across its skin. It looked harmless, almost decorative. Blue-ringed are about 20 centimeters long and weigh roughly 80 grams, said. They're found in tide pools and shallow water around Australia and the Pacific. The aliens relaxed slightly. This creature looked much less threatening than the crocodiles. They contain enough venom to kill 26 adult humans within minutes, continued matter-of-factly. The venom causes paralysis and respiratory failure. There is no antidote. The bite is often painless, so people don't realize they've been poisoned until symptoms begin. The classroom fell silent again. How many humans are killed by these creatures each year? Asked Professor quietly. About 2 or 3, replied. Mostly children who pick them up thinking they're pretty. Children pick up deadly venomous creatures, OK roared in horror. Earth has many small, colorful creatures that are extremely poisonous, explained. We teach children not to touch unknown animals, but children are curious. He showed images of poison dart frogs, cone snails, and death cap mushrooms. Each tiny, beautiful creature could kill with a single touch or bite. Let me show you some of the larger predators, said, switching to new footage. The screen displayed a massive bear, easily 3 meters tall, casually walking through what appeared to be a human settlement. Cars were parked nearby, and houses were visible in the background. This is a polar bear, said. They can weigh up to 800 kilograms and run at 60 kilometers per hour. They're considered the largest land predator on Earth. This footage was taken in Churchill, Canada, where polar bears regularly walk through the town. They walk through human settlements, Al pulsed with alarm. During migration season, confirmed. The humans have polar bear patrols to keep people safe. Most residents carry special flares to scare off bears. It's routine. The next image showed humans in vehicles, following a group of large striped cats. These are tigers, said. They're ambush predators that can leap 15 meters horizontally and 5 meters vertically. A single tiger can drag prey weighing twice its own body weight up a tree. They hunt primarily at night and are nearly silent when stalking. This looks like humans are hunting them, observed. Actually the opposite, replied. This is a safari. Humans pay money to get close to dangerous predators and observe them. It's considered relaxing. Relaxing, Professor sputtered. Being near apex predators is relaxing to humans. Many humans find it exciting, said. We call it adrenaline. The danger makes it fun. He showed footage of humans in small boats, surrounded by massive shapes in the water. These are whales, explained. This particular species can grow to 30 meters long and weigh 200 tons. They could easily destroy these boats by accident. Are they predators? Asked Ra nervously. These ones eat tiny organisms, said. But we have sperm whales that hunt giant squid in deep ocean trenches. Some of our whales are predators that could swallow these boats whole. And humans get close to them for fun. Whale watching is a major industry, confirmed. Millions of humans do it every year. Professor's tentacles were now trembling visibly. I need to ask, what kind of world produces creatures like this? Your planet seems to be full of extremely dangerous predators. Paused thoughtfully. Well, Professor, I think there might be some confusion about Earth's classification. He brought up the original holographic display of Earth from space, the peaceful blue and green world they had seen in the first week. You called Earth a garden world, said slowly, but that's not quite accurate. Earth is what we would call a class 12. The classroom erupted in chaos. Alien students were clicking, whistling, and poolsing with panic. Several professors began urgent conversations in their native languages. A professor gasped, but that's impossible. Don't produce space-faring civilizations. Nothing can survive on a class 12. Looked around the panicked classroom with genuine confusion. I'm sorry, but I think there's been a misunderstanding, he said. Humans don't just survive on Earth. We love it there. We call it home. The chaos in the classroom took nearly 10 minutes to settle. Professor had to call for security to manage the crowd of students and faculty trying to get inside. When order was finally restored, the room was packed beyond capacity with beings from across the galaxy. Director Eth himself had arrived, a massive, ancient being whose species had founded the Galactic Pedagogical Institute thousands of years ago. His presence made everyone realize how significant this moment had become. Mr. Director Eth spoke, his voice deep and resonant. I must ask you to clarify something. Our initial survey teams classified Earth as a garden world. Are you saying this classification was incorrect? looked uncomfortable with all the attention. Well, sir, I don't know what criteria your teams used, but Earth definitely isn't what I would call a garden. Could I ask what makes a world qualify as a garden world? Professor consulted her data pad. Garden worlds are characterized by stable weather, mild temperatures, abundant water, and minimal threats to developing life. They typically have fewer than 10 dangerous species per continent. Oh, said, understanding dawning on his face. Yeah, that's not Earth. Most continents on Earth have hundreds of dangerous species. Some have thousands. Director Eth's expression grew grave. How many dangerous species exist on Earth total? That depends on your definition of dangerous, replied thoughtfully. Are we counting venomous insects, parasites, diseases, plants that can kill you if you touch them? Plants, clicked in alarm. Your vegetation is dangerous. Nodded. Oh yes. We have trees whose sap can blind you permanently if it touches your eyes. Bushes covered in thorns that inject neurotoxins. Flowers that smell so bad they can make you pass out. And that's not counting the ones that are just poisonous to eat. He pulled up images of innocent-looking plants with cheerful names like angel's trumpet and castor bean. These common garden plants can kill an adult human in hours if eaten, explained. Most human children are taught not to put unknown plants in their mouths. Ra asked the question everyone was thinking. How do humans survive childhood on such a world? Very carefully, said with a smile. But most of us make it. Human children are pretty adaptable. Director Eth was reviewing data on his personal device. Mister, according to our galactic classification system, any world with more than 500 dangerous species is considered a Class 1. Worlds with over 1,000 dangerous species are Class 12, the highest threat level in our system. We have never encountered a space-faring civilization that originated from anything higher than a Class 3. What happened to civilizations that developed on higher class? Asked curiously. They went extinct before achieving space travel, the director replied grimly. The environmental pressure was simply too great. No species could survive long enough to develop advanced technology. The classroom fell silent as everyone processed this information. Quartz 7 finally spoke, her crystal voice barely audible. How did humans not only survive but thrive on a Class 12? Considered the question seriously. I think we got good at adapting. When you're surrounded by things that can kill you, you learn to be flexible. We developed tools early because we needed them to survive. We learned to work together because lone humans didn't last long. And we got very good at learning from mistakes, usually other people's mistakes. But you don't just survive, Al pulsed with confusion. You seem to enjoy the danger. Why do humans deliberately seek out these predators? Because they're beautiful, said simply, and because conquering our fears makes us feel alive. When you grow up on a world where everything is trying to kill you, you develop a different relationship with danger. It becomes exciting instead of just terrifying. Professor asked, what do humans do for entertainment on your world? Brought up images that made the aliens gasp in horror. Humans jumping off cliffs with only fabric wings to slow their fall. Humans climbing vertical rock faces with no safety equipment. Humans riding down mountainsides on narrow boards at incredible speeds. We call these extreme sports, explained. Millions of humans do activities like this for fun. Base jumping, free climbing, snowboarding, surfing in storms, cave diving in underwater caverns. They do this voluntarily, Director Ev asked in disbelief. We pay money to do it, confirmed. The more dangerous it is, the more exciting we find it. Okay, rumbled thoughtfully. This explains so much about human behavior during first contact. When our ships appeared in your skis, most species would have hidden or panicked. Humans came out to look at us. Well, yes, said. Giant alien ships appearing suddenly. That's incredibly interesting. We wanted to know who you were and what you wanted. "You weren't afraid?" asked Ra. "Some people were," admitted, "but mostly we were curious. After dealing with sharks and tigers and polar bears our whole lives, aliens seemed manageable." Director Eth was making notes rapidly. "This changes everything we thought we knew about human psychology. Your species doesn't just tolerate danger, you actively seek it out." "It keeps life interesting," said with a shrug. The director looked up from his notes. "Mister, I'm going to need to speak with the Galactic Council immediately. Earth's classification needs to be updated, and humanity's status in our civilization requires complete reevaluation." "Is that good or bad?" asked with concern. "Good," Director Eth said firmly. "Very good. A species that can not only survive but flourish on a Class 12 represents a level of adaptability and resilience we've never encountered. Humanity could be invaluable to the galactic community." Professor spoke up excitedly. "We need to completely restructure our xenobiology program. Earth could be the most important case study in survival evolution ever discovered." Over the following days, found himself overwhelmed with attention. His classmates, who had once dismissed him as weak and boring, now followed him around asking endless questions about Earth. Quartz 7 wanted to know how humans dealt with natural disasters. A was fascinated by human tool-making abilities. Ra couldn't understand how humans had learned to swim for recreation in oceans full of predators. "You have to understand," explained to a group of students over lunch, "we don't think of Earth as particularly dangerous. It's just home. Every world probably seems perfectly normal to the people who live there." "But your world has thousands of creatures that could kill you," Al pulsed with confusion. "And your world has energy storms that could drain the power from entire planets," pointed out. "Every species adapts to their environment. We just adapted to a really dangerous one." A month later, received a formal invitation to address the Galactic Council. As he prepared his presentation, he smiled thinking about how to begin. He would start with something simple. Maybe he would tell them about Earth's weather, how humans lived through hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, and lightning storms. Or perhaps he would explain about human children's field trips to zoos, where they cheerfully observed creatures that could end entire galactic civilizations. The universe was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or intelligence. It was the simple fact that nothing in the galaxy could possibly be more dangerous than the world they called home. And humans not only survived that world, they loved it.